began as a ripple, a distant conflict colliding with the delicate seams of global commerce, and it found those seams thin. What arrived in the weeks and months that followed was not abstract. It showed up at the pump, at kitchen tables, in campaign rallies and congressional hearings, and on crowded docks where tankers wait and shipyards built on a century-old law watch the future of their work. At the center of the conversation is a set of choices that pit short-term relief against long-term resilience. At the center of those choices is the President of the United States, President Donald Trump. Washington moved quickly. In mid-March 2026, the administration announced a 60-day waiver of the Jones Act, the law that requires cargo moved between U.S. ports to travel on U.S.-built, owned, and crewed vessels, arguing the step would blunt the immediate shock to fuel supplies as a regional war drove global oil prices higher. Weeks later, the White House extended that waiver for another 90 days. Those executive choices have become the policy levers of the moment, intended to keep fuel flowing inside the country and to give markets time to settle. But the relief those waivers deliver is tactical, not transformative. Temporary permission for foreign flag tankers to move crude and refined products between U.S. ports can ease congestion and move fuel into regions that normally rely on scheduled domestic shipments. It can buy breathing room, especially for states on the eastern seaboard and parts of the Midwest that depend on longer domestic transit routes. Yet analysts caution that such measures rarely erase the footprint of a global shock. They rearrange flows, they blunt bottlenecks, but they do not instantly cut the price of oil set on international markets. The result is modest relief for consumers at best, and the political calculus is immediate. A New Yorker said gas prices right now is insane. Like, no, you can see right here is $5 and something, and it didn't even fill up the gas well. With $50, it's going to be only 2 gallons. That's really insane, man. $80 for regular is crazy. Words like those are the political engine under a policy debate. People feel it when they drive. They talk about it at kitchen tables. They blame whoever they believe is in charge. That grievance is a practical force. Small changes in pump prices change daily behavior, from skipping discretionary errands to recalculating household budgets and trimming small business margins. The administration frames the waiver as a sensible short-term fix. Officials argue that loosening cabotage requirements lets supply respond more quickly to a transient spike. Foreign tankers that would otherwise be idle can bring fuel from the Gulf to the Northeast. Barges can fill temporary gaps in inland movements. Advance notice allows operators to line up vessels and avoid last-minute port congestion. The policy in this telling is a tool for managing scarcity across time, smoothing logistics now to avoid panic later. But there is a countervailing set of worries. For decades, the Jones Act has been understood as a bargain. It grants a protected domestic market in exchange for preserving an industrial base, shipyards, mariners, and the capacity to surge in wartime or during extreme emergency. When waivers become routine, that bargain frays, an industry leader said, each extension chips away at efforts to restore American leadership in commercial shipping and shipbuilding. That concern is practical and immediate. Building and maintaining a merchant fleet and a capable shipbuilding industry takes years and billions of dollars. If domestic work dries up, yards lose skilled tradespeople, training pipelines atrophy, the political heft that keeps investment and procurement flowing dissipates. What is lost is not only jobs, but an industrial safety net, the ability to surge capacity when geopolitics demands it. There's a wider strategic layer to the debate. Some officials and analysts argue that when sea lanes are threatened, the capacity of a single country with global naval reach matters. The United States, with its carrier fleets and escort capabilities, can project power and keep choke points open in ways other actors cannot. Yet that capability carries consequences. Military protection of maritime passage can draw a country deeper into regional conflict. The decision to use force to secure trade routes is consequential and can escalate tensions. In private, a White House official framed this as both diplomatic and practical. We would welcome a serious European effort to do something about this strait and this passage. The plea is straightforward. Shared risk should mean shared responsibility. European capitals, whose economies are heavily exposed to maritime choke points, could be expected to take on more of the burden. In practice, the appetite to do so is mixed. Some capitals are willing to step up. Others are wary of escalation risk. Back on Main Street, the arithmetic is smaller and sharper. A commuter said, I will say that every time I'm pulling up to a gas station now, it's a little bit of a hesitation to know that it's going to cost more than before. That hesitation changes behavior. Fewer discretionary drives. Households delay purchases, small businesses recalculate costs, and perceptions harden. Polling over the past year shows public confidence in presidential handling of conflict and energy policy has shifted, shaping voter sentiment. The tug of war between short-term fixes and long-term strategy plays out across 3 time horizons. Immediate measures, waivers, tactical releases from strategic reserves, and diplomatic pressure can blunt shocks. In the medium term, logistics coordination, port upgrades, and industrial planning can reduce vulnerability. In the long term, rebuilding a durable maritime industrial base requires steady demand, public investment, and policy certainty. There's also a political economy at work. The administration has launched efforts aimed at renewing domestic shipbuilding capacity and attracting allied investment. But temporary exceptions, overused, reduce the incentive to invest in domestic capability. The shipping industry itself is split. Global operators welcome flexibility. Domestic shipbuilders and unions warn that routine waivers undermine long-term capacity. The American waterways operators and related groups have expressed concern that broad exemptions risk displacing American workers while offering only marginal consumer benefits. On the other side, analysts note that flexibility during crises can reduce bottlenecks and soften price shocks. The debate is about balance, how often, how broadly, and under what conditions exemptions should be used. The human contours remain messy. Shipyard towns watch contracts and payrolls. Coastal communities weigh promises of revival against immediate needs. Drivers and small business owners adjust budgets in real time. Politics compresses nuance. When fuel prices rise, accountability becomes personal and immediate. The White House presents waivers as responsible stabilization. Critics see them as short-term fixes that risk long-term damage. Alternatives exist. Investment in domestic capacity, allied partnerships, training programs, and predictable procurement could rebuild resilience, but slowly. Strengthening multilateral maritime cooperation could also distribute risk more evenly. Ultimately, the choices are political: protect consumers today through temporary measures, or invest heavily in long-term industrial capacity. Both paths carry costs. One buys time. The other builds endurance. Between tugboat and tanker, between dry dock and gas nozzle, the country keeps tallying costs. What matters most is whether today's decisions stabilize daily life and whether they preserve the capacity to withstand the next disruption when it comes.